Hello, welcome to another session of The Green Room with me, Daivd Green. The show where creators come on to talk to me about their pet peeves of the creative world. Could be anything about the creative process, the things that we have to do around it, and hopefully we have a good time at it. And in the meantime, they will try and convince me why their topic should be consigned to the Green Room forever. Disclaimer, I have no power to keep this thing away from the real world, but let's just pretend that we have. So I have two people joining me today, and I am delighted to introduce them. So why don't you, my lovely assistant, Ron La, bring them in. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to my big face.
Hi.
Hi, David. Hi, Heather.
How's it going? So why don't we start? Nikki, you're on top. So why don't you introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about yourself?
Ooh, and now I'm big. I'm NIKKI DEKEUSTER. I'm a horror author of the Bittersweet Empathy series. I have one novel out right here and one novelette, and they're interconnected. It's about a girl that she's an apathetic girl that gets empathy and the ability to control people's emotions and the horrific things that ensue from that. So that's me.
And it's a very good book as well. Both of them are good, but especially the novel is excellent. And with me also, trying to convince me better than what Nikki can do, is Heather Lang.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Lang. I write underneath Heather Fleischman and J.R. Gansky. I'm primarily a science fiction fantasy author. I have 16 published to date, along with 2 anthologies that I was a part of. And I've just really enjoyed being able to tell a good story, or at least I hope it's good.
Yes, that's the hope when we're writing them. It's like, I hope somebody likes this.
I kind of hope somebody suffers.
Yeah, that's true as well. Hopefully, someone really hates it as well, which is
Yes.
fantastic.
Hey, evincing emotion. That's what
Exactly.
I'm all about.
Exactly. You want to relic some kind of feeling, and that's what you want to do with me today as well. You want to make me laugh. You want to make me hate something so much that I cannot bear to not put it in the green room forever. So I'm really excited to. I have no idea what topics you are going to bring to me tonight. So I'm excited to find out. So we'll start with Nikki, and in round one, you get the floor. As Ron
Okay.
says, it's topic one, and go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. So, what I've encountered in my wanderings in the author world and writer world in general is something that's you're probably familiar with. It's the critique sandwich. It's where you want to layer in some good observations with like maybe the meat of what the story might need, because I like to do critiques. It's one of the things that lights up my soul. And so I've really sort of studied the best ways to go about it and came across this critique sandwich thing. And then I modified it for writers just a little bit. And I put it out there at one point and it got picked up and became a little tiny meme. And then I got to kind of see other people's reactions to it. And I was absolutely floored at the amount of people who said they didn't want anything good, because the critique sandwich is like point out what's working, what's good, point out what isn't, and then leave on a high note, right? Well, there's just the majority of people were like not wanting that. They were like, we're going to see that as fake, not wanting to take a compliment or seeing it as a time waster to point out what's working. And so that has been one of my greatest pet peeves is, I guess not being able to take compliments or low self-esteem on our writing. I mean, we were just talking about wanting people to like what we write or to be horrified for it or evincing an emotion. So there has to be some sort of wanting to put our work out there, feeling like it's good enough. And then to encounter so much inward resistance from people was just uh, shocking to me. So that's my pet peeve, to break it all down, is people wanting just critiques to be just the harshness or just what's wrong and what needs to get fixed. And I would put out there that you need to know the whole picture to get a truly good critique. What's working, what's connecting with people and making them laugh or cry or whatever, in addition to what needs to get fixed. And if I've had critiques where it is all just fixing stuff and I shut down. Like I can't hear, even if it's stuff that's good and helpful in fixing whatever I'm writing, I can't hear it. So I'm interested to see what you have to say on this, David and Heather. So there's my rant.
Ron, it's he was leaving you up there for a little bit.
I was going to say, take me
moment,
out.
just to make you stew in what you've just said.
I know you're stewing.
I am familiar with the critique sandwich. In a previous life, I used to do upper retail management for a long time, too long, and we called it the shit sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which you may know about, and it was true. It was a layer of compliments. It's like this is great, and then the real meat or the shit of the sandwich would be the bulk of the critique of these are all the things you need to do better, right? And then at the end it would be a little line like, but anyway, this was quite clean, I guess.
Hey, thanks for being human.
Well done.
Yes.
Right. So yes, I'm very familiar, and it's one of those. It's a very kind of corporate speak of like kind of, we really want to tell you that you're terrible, but we're not allowed to.
And see, that's what people think. That's where they get this perception. And I was like,
Yeah,
that's not where I'm coming at.
and that's what it is. It's so corporate, and it's like we're not allowed to say that anymore. We have to like be nice to you, so we're gonna give you the most backhanded compliment to start off this little critique session.
And see, people assume that it must be bullshit. That's what I run into. And I work very hard to find what works personally.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And sometimes I have to work harder than others, granted, but
Well, everyone
yay
needs
for
to
my
know.
first day on the show, and I'm going to say I completely agree with you, because it is total shit. It's total shit that my mom, who's my biggest fan, didn't tell me that Born to Reign was so... She couldn't understand it. She couldn't understand how I wrote it, why I wrote it, what the plot was, or anything. And she didn't tell me for 6 years that she couldn't finish this book. And
yeah,
I'm
you gotta be able to. Yeah.
And she's like, I am so glad you came out with 2 new books that I can actually read. I'm like, okay. She's like, what the hell happened with Born to Reign? And I explained to her where I was in my life and how I was actually, writing it. And she's like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense why this is absolute shit. And I'm like, thank you. I want to take this off the market, because I'm like, how did I write this? How is this even still in print? I'm embarrassed.
And that's the other side of the coin too. It's people that just tell you that it's all good, and then there's no meat in the sandwich, and then you're hungry.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, it's all fluff and no substance.
So I think that the sandwich can be made up of different amounts of meat. I'm going to say meat because I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one wants to eat shit.
Nobody wants to eat a shit sandwich. We all eat enough shit sandwiches in our life, I think. But yeah, like it doesn't have to be like exactly a giant amount of condiments and lettuce and whatever.
I don't need you to be my
something.
biggest fan. I need you to be honest with me, because being my biggest fan and turning around 20 years from now and finding out that, I just lived a lie for the last 20 years because there was nothing good in my writing, That's more traumatizing to me than it is to come up with be like, take that out of print. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So a full picture is what you're advocating for,
Yeah.
Nikki. Not so much a layer of good, the rancid, terrible meat that might make it better, which we all need. But also then
balance.
just a little. It needs to be like little chunks of other
Yeah.
vegetables in there as well.
I ran a critique group for a couple of years, and in all that time I only had a single piece that I had to step away from because I didn't connect with it at all. Like I couldn't honestly find anything. And so I did. I was like, I'm just not connecting with the writing. Maybe it's me, maybe it's where I'm at, and I just sort of, but I've critiqued a lot of things, and there is always something. And I would submit that, like, if you are doing a critique and you can't find that something, that you should maybe step back from it because it can be
Absolutely.
harmful.
Yeah.
You know?
Critiquing is not for everyone. Critiquing is not for everyone. It's very, very true. You make some very good points. People that are watching, please chime in with your comments. Let us know what you think about these topics that we're talking about as well. And
Have
who
you
you
ever
think
ate a shit sandwich? Let us
you've
know
ever
in the
eaten a
comments
shit
below.
sandwich, yeah.
Would you rather eat a shit sandwich?
Or a
But
meat
get your
sandwich.
stuff critiqued because that's hard too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah, chip in with your comments. Let us know who you think should be winning each topic as well. But I may not agree with you, and I will not be taking.
I can't argue with her on this one. I just
Well,
can't.
it's
don't
not
want
about
to be.
arguing with her. It's about being more convincing about
Yeah.
your one. Only one can win. But yeah, let me know what you all think about your topics. Other topics. Your opinions will not sway mine, but maybe they will. I cannot say. Okay, so that was a good one, Nikki, and I also feel it was kind of a personal attack, but we'll discuss that later. And Heather, take it away, and let's hear what you got to say.
All right. So here's a little glimpse into my life that, I was sharing with everybody before. I have 3 chihuahuas, a cat, 5 snakes, a bearded dragon, 3 houses of rats, and a big old fish tank. Okay. Now, I also have my son, my son-in-law, and my husband that live with me. We live in a 35-foot RV. So there's no space. There's no privacy. I join these groups all the time and I get to see everybody's beautiful, beautiful looking offices where they have all this private time and this space and nobody ever interrupts them. But for me, I have interruptions. I have distractions. I mean, I can do all of the best laid plans in the world and I cannot get one of the chihuahuas to quit crying because, dad's not home or the kids are being loud or, I put my headphones on and I put my music on and I sit down to write. And next thing you know, my husband's right here having a conversation with me. And I'm like, I told you an hour ago I needed to write today or I needed to do homework today or I need to do something. So for me, my biggest pet peeve is no personal space and so many interruptions and trying to figure out a way to still be able to do what I love to do around this 10 pounds of shit stuffed in a 1-pound bag. So, that's my first rant for today.
So, Ron just loves leaving people on for a little bit longer,
Yeah,
just to make you feel. Yeah, I might have to start doing like a little dance or something at the end of it. Yeah. So interruptions and distractions when you're trying to write is this is the crux of the argument. It's a good argument. I think we can. I think what this comes down to is especially if you're living with other people, is that, and this is from my experience. I don't know if I might be projecting onto you here, Heather, but it's that people don't take it quite as seriously as what they're doing.
No, not at all. And I mean, it could be a conversation that, oh my God, he just got the paku to eat out of his hand. And that is so much more important than the fact that I have been staring at the same evil blinking cursor for the better part of 8 months trying to finish this one fucking sentence. Just shut up. Just one sentence.
Because it's, what it comes down to? It comes down to this very false saying where everyone's got a book in them. It's like, No, they don't. Because some people might have a bad book in them, but it's hard to write a good book, and being distracted and being interrupted makes it even harder.
Yeah, because I'm the kind of writer where I have to connect with it. I have to feel everything that my characters are feeling. I have to dream it. I have to live it. I have to breathe it. And then I have to put it on paper and tear it apart. And that's the way that I write. And not being able to explain that to everybody, because they'll read the finished product and they'll be like, "Oh, mom, this is fantastic," or "Oh, honey, you did a great job on this one," but they don't understand what it took to get there. And it was like I was living this whole other life for this amount of time, and to constantly have it feeling like it's ripped away from you because it's time to feed like 3 houses of rats at your feet. It Who cares?
You need a do not disturb sign of some sort.
It's my headphones. I put my headphones on, and that's
Yeah.
supposed to mean do not disturb me, but they're just gone.
I put my headphones on. I have noise cancelling headphones, and my son pulls them off my head to talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, how do I do it? So it's actually gotten to the point where I'm not publishing one a year or one every other year. I'm publishing one every 3 years or one every 4 years. Or, I'm waiting till the last minute on my anthologies and go into a hotel room for 3 days so that I can pump out that 20,000 words, because that's the only time I'm going to get the privacy. I love you guys. I'll be across town. Don't bother me.
And then when you're in the hotel room, you're distracted by room service and.
Oh no, I will pick the most ghetto motel there is. They don't even have a coffee pot in their room, but they will not ask you questions. They will not interrupt you. They don't even
They
want
don't
to know
care.
that you're
They hear
there.
gunshots and they're like,
We didn't hear nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Nikki, do you get interrupted and distracted when you're trying to write?
all the damn time.
By like roosters crowing in the mornings and stuff like that.
Oh, I wish I still lived in the country. I used to have a rooster, actually. His name was Lawrence, and he was beautiful.
Oh, there we go.
But
And you killed the rooster so you could get some food, right?
and I killed him. Yes, and ate him. Yeah, I actually end up writing at night for this very reason. I still get distracted because I have shiny syndrome, and I like to research. I'm getting better. I have a critique partner who has been helping me and on top of me, to bracket things, bracket as you go. Otherwise, I'll get down the rabbit hole and learn how to ride a horse for 3 hours. So yeah.
That's fun though. That is fun.
But then I
it
end
is
up
just-
staying up until unholy hours in the morning
Right. Yeah.
and getting no
That's right.
sleep. So
Yeah. That's a bit well. Anyway, I sympathise. I'm not telling you if this is the one that's going to be the winner or not until the end of the show, but I do sympathise with with both of these points actually, with the critiquing and with being interrupted and distracted by everything in the entire world or everything that's going on in your house. So people that are watching, let me know what you thought was the winning topic. And before we move on to topic 2, we can take a look at some of the comments.
who's here?
If Ron is Ron listening, he's here. Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, going dinner. Breaking the fourth wall. Yes. Let's send some stars to our hosts. I agree. Hello, Anita. You're here for everything. You are the biggest fan of Going to Know.
Oh, there's A.F. Stewart. I love her, and I love her
Hi,
book.
Tom. Oh, thanks for coming, Tom.
Hello there.
You're very sweet.
Hello, Tiffany. Books by Tiffany, not just Tiffany.
Tom wants to see what the hell I've been up to.
I think this was about the critique sandwich that is more of a beef stew, which I think is, you never know what's going to be on your spoon next every time you pull it out of the stew.
Oh, that's so true.
Awful topic one from Nikki. That's kind of harsh. But we will remain to see if I agree. Reviews are subjective, though. Not everybody is qualified to offer perspective that would help the author. Yeah, that's true. Someone's words definitely. Yeah, that's true, and it's true as the critiquing as well. Because one of the things I find with critiquing is that you get some people that tell you this is how I would write this book. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're not writing this book.
You got to see the soul of the book to know.
I think this is a
where it wants to
comment
go.
for Heather that chihuahuas and husbands are awful.
Both yapping away all the time. Leave me alone.
But my furry little toddlers, I love them.
And Tom
occasionally, like my
also,
husband too. I do write underneath his name.
right. Tom also hates reviews by the sounds of it.
Yes. Yes. Because, if you look right there, my good chihuahua is sleeping very peacefully.
Right.
Because she knows if mom's just going to sit here and I'm going to be good and I'm going to be up her butt and silent.
Excellent. How do you write with someone on top of you? That's skills right there. That is true. That's a big distraction as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And they did both have good points. That is true, Anita. That is true.
Well, yeah, because I'm with you, Heather. Like I have to get immersed into the character, which is hard sometimes with some of the stuff I write.
Yes.
Like, because I'll be in like a really bad headspace where I put this poor girl.
Yeah. And
to get jarred out of that for any reason.
The whole first chapter of Love Bleeds in War, I am torturing this girl, okay?
What does that say about us as writers? Look at us all torturing our characters.
Don't look at my Google.
We hate parts of our subconscious mind.
Don't look at my Google, okay? I am not a serial killer. I pretend to be an author.
Okay, let us go on to topic 2. That was excellent timing, Ron. Well done. I don't give you compliments very often, but that was excellent. That's more what I expect. Heather, you went second last time, so now you.
All right. One of my more recent things that I've actually found that I enjoy, but I don't know, is I've started doing this thing where I've actually researched topics and I'm trying to make things more relatable and less science fiction. Because when it's sci-fi fantasy, I can just make shit up as I go and I don't need to do the research. So I got completely lost and Joe got to see the image of this ship of the line because I'm working on a pirate story and I can stare at this picture for hours and try to figure out how I'm going to write this into my story and not write a damn thing. So essentially, I'm distracting myself and getting lost in a translation where I want to be hyper realistic. And I think as an author, I'm losing my roots with this. And I was hoping to get some sort of, insight or opinions based on, is it okay to change who you are as an author over the years, or do you want to stick more with where you were? And how do we balance that? How do we find that sweet spot of where we were, where we are, and where we want to be as authors? Maybe.
Just do this with your hand or something like that. Ron obviously, he doesn't understand when there's a pause.
He's gone. He's off writing his own stories.
He's so deep into what you're talking about. He's sat there, like I can see him staring out through his window at his yard, at his camp.
Taking his notes. There's gonna be a quiz on this later.
Exactly. Well, there will be. Yes, there will be because people that are watching stick around for afterwards. Because after we finish, we're going to be coming straight back with the interviews from from the winner and loser. I don't like to say loser. I'll say the winner and the runner-up. Yes.
Oh, no.
The winner and the person that did not win.
I have made a very successful time at being the loser at everything, so let's do it.
Yeah. So your
No
topic,
pressure, no guilt or anything.
research rabbit holes is what I'm hearing. So
Yeah.
you're getting sucked into research, you're doing too much research, and then you're wondering where the root of the story in you as a writer was because you're trying to put all this research into
Yeah.
your work. Okay. That is a good point. So what I'm kind of getting from this is that your stories before this were more
They wrote
second
themselves.
world.
They
Yeah.
were fluid. They had their own dynamics. They had everything, and I lost that somewhere along the line where I have to put a little bit more effort into it, and I have to put more thought into it. And you know, I do get lost a lot in trying to figure out the how of it instead of just letting it flow like it used to.
So where did that change happen? What was it? Was it something that came from you, or was it like
It
something that you
was
noticed from?
it was a major life change. I separated from my second husband. I was no longer a stay-at-home parent. I had to do things, that were out of the normal for me. So when I could before just sit there and write and escape my life, it suddenly became I was living the adventures and I was living the life that I wanted to write about. And
Oh,
I lost the
that's
wonder in
interesting.
putting it in the words.
Right.
Having a life you don't want to escape.
Yeah.
What else does that say about us?
Yeah.
So do you think that you could go back to writing in the way that you were writing when it was more of a imagination thing instead of stuff that was rooted in reality?
I don't know.
You know.
I don't know. And that the unknown, it scares the shit out of me
And do
because
you think
am I at the end? Did I write everything I was going to write?
do you think there is a pressure for people to have more, even in stuff like fantasy, where like you're making the world? Do you think there is more of a pressure from readers to have it to be more kind of authentically rooted in reality, or do you think that, or not?
I think it got to the point where we're overly saturated with self-published authors, and the point we've gotten to is something has to stand out one way or another, or we're just lost in it.
And Nikki, how do you approach research? I mean, there's some things in your book that you probably cannot research because there is you'll be arrested. Probably.
Yeah.
Um,
Do
but
not
like,
want
how
to
do you?
not want to go there.
Bold of you to assume that I haven't been.
Yeah. So yeah, how do you approach this situation?
Of just getting like too in your head about the story.
Yeah.
I fail at this all the time. But in terms of finding that flow, I think it helps to take the pressure off to just write it assuming no one will see it. I found that helpful. Or, because it does. It's like then you're too in your head thinking, well, what is this person going to think about that? And to bring it back around to the critique thing, that's where your critique partners and your beta readers come in. That's why you want them. That's the function that they fulfill. So if there's something that they want to know a little bit more about, you can expand on it then after you get the story out.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That makes absolute
It
sense.
does.
And welcome to the prime example of interruptions as the dogs just went nuts.
Oh, did you mute your
I
thing?
did.
You did.
Well, they had something to say. They had something to say on the subject.
Happy Dad just got home. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Yeah. Animals know that they know this process.
See, I have a
Nikki.
ferret, and ferrets are quiet. That
Right.
is one of their
Yes.
best features.
Feature. Nikki, the floor is yours.
Oh, I'm doing my topic.
Put down your drink and talk to us.
So I can't have a mouthful of Liquid, will you close up on me?
Yeah.
All right. What am I going to talk
Chipmunk
about here?
take it.
It's not that kind of show, Nika.
Wow, I don't know. This is YouTube. Okay, so my second pet peeve is actually one we touched on a little bit, comparison to other writers and the kind of unfair death knell that this can be to your creativity, to your drive. So like, what if I only put out a book every 4 years? Does that make me a writer? Oh, well, somebody else is popping a book out in 3 months, 200,000 word book in 3 months. And I'm plunking away here and done like 2 chapters. And I'm a very slow writer myself, trying to speed up, finding tips and tricks. But to compare yourself to other writers, you're not them. You don't have their life, you don't have their experience, you don't have their energy. We're all different. And that is beautiful and it's okay. And I wish more people would accept that and just take themselves where they are instead of what I've seen with all kinds of creative stuff is this hustle culture, which is kind of a side tangent to this. But just people who burn themselves out trying to kick out novel after novel and be a type of writer that they're just not. Maybe they can do a book a year, maybe a book every 2 years. Like, I feel like the people who connect with your work are gonna wait for it. I mean, look at Jim Butcher. He took 4 years between the last Dresden book. He ended up coming out with two of them. And he had one monster one and split it into two. But like 4 years, and we all waited. It's okay. Now if you're trying to make a career out of it, I understand that's a different animal. But to compare yourself to other writers is never going to do any good. And I do astrology as one of the many things that I do. And we have our sun sign that most people know, your sun zodiac sign, but we also have a Mercury, and that is our writing. And so I literally can look at people's natal birth charts and see what kind of writer they are and have an understanding and a compassion for that. So I get a little bit of a hawk's eye view of it that has been eye-opening and helpful for me in not doing this thing. But I see it all the time, and it saddens me. So.
So yeah, there's a few things, and I think it comes down to as you started it off with the comparison to other authors in a negative way, because there is the other side of it as well, where you can compare yourself to other authors that you admire and go, "Well, this was amazing."
Yeah, and be inspired. That's true.
And be inspired by it, yeah, and that's the way that hopefully people do it, and it pushes you on to do even better, or and you're glad to see your fellow authors doing really well for themselves.
Yes.
But you do get people that get a lot of jealousy.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous because they're not you. They don't know what else you have going on in your life.
Exactly. And as you say, people's writing methods are different, and the way that they kind of come around to it, because you get some people that are they have a first draft that will be very, very similar to the final draft, but then you have other people that takes a while to craft it a little bit longer, and there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but some people do look across the garden and see that other person that's doing it, and they get a little bit jealous. Oh my goodness, it is that kind of show. Oh my.
But no, I do completely agree on, we waited for Dresden. I am a big Dresden fan, and I didn't notice the time. I didn't notice it until you pointed it out.
Yeah, 4 years. That makes me sleep better at night.
I think I am totally going to sleep better tonight for that. I do not feel so bad anymore, because I went from, I wrote my first 4 novels in 8 months to one a year, to one every other year, to did I even put one out in the last 4 years?
We're not robots. We're not, well, most of us are not robots.
I was roboting it out, and Born to Rain sucked. And then I had a short story that I came out with because, fuck trying to make 60,000 words. I'm happy I made 20. You can have a short story this time.
Because the Jim Butcher one is a good point, because people look at him as being quite a prolific writer. I mean, there's a lot of Dresden books, but there was that big gap. But what he also did, he went off and wrote something else for a little while, for a break from doing the same thing that he was doing for so long, which I think is really important. And Heather, you just kind of mentioned that as well. It's good to kind of just take a break sometimes and just unwind and just be like, you know what, I've done enough, and it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing.
Take a break, read the Silmarillion.
That's me.
Like you do to relax,
Right. That's what I do to relax. I read mythic, epic essays written in the trenches of World War One. That's what I like to do.
I need to get my hands on some of those because I'm a historical nut. I would love that.
What I thought was an interesting thing there as well, and was before we move on to topic 3, is hustle culture, which I think there is another show, the weekly show on the Go Indie Now network, which is This Week in Indies, and we've talked about that a little bit before. The 20 books to Vegas model, which I have some thoughts about, and I think it's one of these things that does breed a lot of competitiveness between authors. And see, Nikki has killed herself there.
Not that 20 books doesn't have some really good advice. It does, but you can drive yourself mad trying to follow it. Even prolific writers. Like, it's like, okay, way to suck all the fun out of this creative thing of my soul. That's how I look at my work. It's a piece of me.
Yes,
and
exactly.
That's a scary thing to put out there.
Very good. Well, this was both excellent points. I'd hate to be the person that has to decide who is the one who's going to win this show going into the third topic. But before we go into the third topic, let us know, again, people that are watching, who you think had the better of it in that one. What did you think about these topics? And we will just have a quick look at all the comments. And the first one is about a squirrel and the internet.
The squirrel, yes.
Oh, yeah. Stupid squirrels.
Research rabbit hole. I think many of us have fallen down that rabbit hole of research.
Anita, your stuff is so amazing. I cannot get enough of it. You can fall down the rabbit hole anytime and then just blurt out words, and I would read it.
Yeah, Anita. In my opinion, all authors change and grow and should. Yeah, I think evolve is a good way to kind of put that, because you don't want someone NIKKI DEKEUSTER to become erotica writer or something, like, if you like The Spiral. Right? It's like, I quite like The Spiral.
I probably could make a bit of coin.
You probably could, actually. Yeah. It sucks, but effort can make writing stronger in the end. Yeah, it does. Hi Jen, how's it going?
Hi Jennifer.
Those things. Good to see you. You can thrive, but you can research about being arrested. But the thing is, Nikki does the things. She's a full method.
Immersive, yes.
Nikki selling topic 1 in rebuttal of Heather's topic 2. Wow, she's competitive.
Totally planned.
And I'm going to write it every 4 years.
This all out like days ago.
Yeah, that's right. See, the thing is, every 4 years is quite good when it's compared to Patrick Rothfuss, which is 1 in 12 years at this point.
We're looking at how many years were between the Gunslinger series.
That is, well, he did get hit by a van.
Excuses, okay? If you love something, you find the time.
Ron is being as honest as ever, which is not too honest.
He doesn't like anything. He's just a big curmudgeon.
Man after my own heart.
Ron loves everything. Offer comparisons with other people. Yeah. The negative offer comparison. Joe's keeping scores. But whose is the one that counts? Some idiots. who, when he came up with this idea, I was like, this would be fun. But then I didn't even think about the fact that I would have to decide between everyone's topics. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, a little sweat on the brow there.
I was going to be like Prince Andrew. I never sweat. What a weird thing to say. I wish I was a robot. You kind of sound like a robot. You kind of remind me a little bit like Mr. Data, but not as funny. Secular genres keep things fresh. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Right. Okay, so topic 3. The final topic, the final frontier to nail down the Mr. Data thing. And we are going to start with NIKKI DEKEUSTER on this one. So go.
Okay, so this one sort of, again, feeds into the last topic a little bit. I touched on it, and it's the whole that as authors, we are not in competition with each other, or to have that mindset is a pet peeve of mine anyway. I suppose in a way, perhaps there is, but I feel like readers are so voracious that none of us can possibly, like even you, David, with as fast as you write, none of us can possibly satisfy every single reader in the amount of time it takes them to read a book. Like, you know, I have this book, it's about 450 pages, and it took one person, I think, a day and a half to get through. I can't write this in a day and a half, so the idea that we're in competition with each other rather than, okay, so I found a reader who loves my story, and I have a friend who also writes horror or also writes something similar to this. Hey, check out what they do. We should be in more of a supportive mindset with each other as authors than cutthroat, because this shit is hard enough. We need that support network, and doing things that kind of snipe and undermine, and I don't see it so much in the horror, but in some other genres I've seen, like in the romance genre, you'll get more authors that snipe back and forth to each other, like trying to tear each other down when we really should be always building each other up. And to me, it just looks bad. And then whoever's doing the tearing down, I think it's bad for their reputation anyway. So there's my rant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to do that seeds do the thing, but I think he's just waiting for me to do it at this point.
That was way smoother.
It was good. He's getting there. You said cutthroat at the end, and all I could think of when anyone says cutthroat is pirates.
I know.
And pirates are awesome, so
yeah.
Point to me.
So I just had this image of pirate authors just
I have a Jolly Roger. It was in my last video, and I have the pirate hat. I cosplay as one of my characters when I go out and do geek things. So, I can totally do the pirate thing. I can't write about them because I get stuck looking at ships, but...
Well, and what was that movie? I think it was Baron Munchausen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
At the beginning, right? That's what the authors are doing.
I love that movie. I watched it way too much, and I shouldn't have been watching it when I was a child, probably, but I saw it so many times. So yeah, jealousy between authors, basically, and drama between authors. See, I'm one of these people as well that I think that optics is very, very important when you're an author, and even if you look at it, I think even especially at the start of building yourself up to the point where, if I'm asked to review something, and even if I'm reviewing things for my own kind of pleasure, that I won't review anything if I'm going to give it less than 3 stars, because I think it looks bad on the author, because it's kind of you're being too critical of other people's work.
Yeah, there's a whole nother rant right there, right? Hypercritical writing makes us.
Exactly, and there is stuff that I've had people ask me to read that are other authors, and I've not liked it. And I've told them privately if they've asked me, if they've said, "Why have you not reviewed it yet?" or whatever, and I say, "Well, this is why." But I won't go and put it on like my Goodreads profile of a 2-star or whatever, because I just think it looks poor, and also it's hard for authors in general. Because I think it does come from sometimes there is that kind of thing, and you do see some authors that do review people poorly quite a lot, and you're kind of like, well, what is the angle here? Right? Is there something going on? And so do you see, I mean, you said before, Nikki, when you were talking, that you don't really see it so much in the horror one, but you see it in the in romance authors quite a lot. Why do you think it is?
Why the difference? Well, romance tends to be more about the drama, right? So you'd expect the authors to be, I mean, not that there isn't drama, but it's just it's different type of drama. So I think it just attracts a different type of person.
Right.
Whereas horror authors have usually been through some traumatic, awful shit. And so they have maximum amounts of empathy. And so, like, in my experience, it's been the most supportive community to be involved in. And I think that's why.
And it was a lot like that with the fantasy as well, because, we could all appreciate the worlds that we could create and that we weren't infringing or stepping on anybody's toes. And we were able to just, collab together and appreciate each other and pitch each other all the time. But, looking at some of the nonfiction and the drama and, things like that, they tend to be a little bit more serious and a little bit more competitive.
Right.
It may be based in reality. Not that horror can't be, but a lot of times you'll see more supernatural or fantastical. Even if it's based in reality, it's really usually out there, extreme reality, as opposed to like a romance that could happen down the street.
It's kind of almost like, when you have people like doing writing fantasy, you look at other people and you're like, it's really hard to write these. Like it's so hard to come up with all this stuff. So we're gonna really support you, because we know exactly how hard it is to come up with this whole new culture and this whole new system of living in every single book that we write for some reason. Why we do this? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why? Tell me why. Tell me why.
I can. That's a whole other thing.
A whole other one. So
I can.
Unfortunately, we only got 3.
We only have 3 this time till season 2, if there is a season 2. This is an extra episode, by the way, so maybe there will be a season 2, because this was an unplanned episode. However, I hope you're all enjoying it. And now we are going to finish the very last topic with Heather. Take it away.
Hi, guys. I am not going to complain, bitch, or moan or anything with my last one. I am actually going to make a statement that is probably going to shock a lot of the people that have really depended on me. But I quit. I don't want to be an author anymore. I don't want to fight over it. I don't want to fuss over it. It's not fun. I quit. I found a new passion, and that's promotions, marketing, editing. I love beta reading for people. I love helping the people that are just starting out, because it was so hard when I was starting out. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I had to learn it all by myself, and I had to make my covers by myself. And my new passion is I don't want to let anybody go through that alone. And I don't care if you can afford it or not. I'm going to tell you right now, if you can't afford some of the greater people that are on here, I will give you a free beta read and give you free advice any day of the week, because advice should always be free. If you need help with editing or formatting or anything like that, I suggest some of the more wonderful people on this channel overall that, should be great at that. But I will always be there to give you advice and beta read and do things to help people. And I don't want to be trapped in writing anymore. So it's a whole new world opening up here for me.
I was refusing to do the hand thing. Okay, so we've had a career change live on the green room, an announcement. How dramatic! Nikki was just talking about drama, and here we are.
Drums. Understandable drums.
Yeah. So it does seem that, I mean, from the things that you were talking about before, and Nikki's subjects that you were talking about as well, it does seem that you have been quite unhappy with the authorship of things, the author life lately. So yeah, that's
I've
great.
Fought through it, and I've fought through it, and then I'm like, I didn't know what my last topic was going to be, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I quit. I'm serious. I'm done. I want to have fun at this again, you guys. I don't want to have to, piss and bitch and moan and let life get in the way or not get in the way and just struggle when I could be helping people that, aren't struggling to get their leg up and get their foot in the door and do things that they don't possibly think of. And I've even completely restructured my website to show that, there's a whole other line of things outside of just being an author. And I think that, after everything, that's just where I want to be now. That is totally where I want to be now. It's just, the help. I want to be the help.
Well, this is what the Green Room does. It gives people epiphanies for their careers, I guess.
Well,
So cool.
It speaks to a topic on the last show about the many different hats that we have to wear. Right. That was a pet peeve there about just being overwhelmed. On the one hand, but then on the other, you learn all these things, and it is exciting. I do developmental editing professionally too.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like, sometimes I'm like, did I just get paid to do this? Pinching myself, and it does. It evinces that happy feeling. You know what I mean? So
there is that thing with this, is like there is so many different parts of it, especially when you're an indie author, like self-publishing or indie, where you have to take on so much stuff, and there is some things that you do enjoy about it, and there's things that you really don't enjoy about it, and it's it's good to kind of figure that out and think, well, you know what, this bit of me, I like this.
I might still write, but I've gotten to the point where, as an author, I've published 16 to date. I don't think I have to force myself to write anymore. And I want to go into a support role. And I've just been kind of hiding it from the indie community and doing my shows and doing, my podcasts and doing, my interviews and it's just like, God, this is like exhausting.
So you don't enjoy going out there and putting yourself out there?
I love talking about people, and I love talking about books, and I love discussing different topics. But then when I got to go back to the sitting down and the writing and the next best thing, I think my next best thing is just being there for other people who had to figure out, so they don't have to do it alone.
So basically, to put in the Green Room, you want to put being an author to the Green Room.
Yep, I am.
Which is a
being
bold
an author
move.
Is.
It's a bold move.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's go through the topics, and I will have a think about this, because at the end of the day, I will have to decide. And it's been some really, really good topics. Let people that are watching, as I'm deciding and talking through this, let us know who you think won the last round and who is going to win overall. I think it's a tight one this time. So we had Nick in the first round. So we had the critique sandwich and interruptions and distractions, and both of them I can empathise with both of them. I do think that, like, when you are writing a story, you need to know what isn't working, but you also need to know what is working, which is important, because if something's working, then you need to do more of it.
And it feeds your soul. It feeds your soul.
Oh, who cares about souls?
I care about souls.
Souls are important.
They are, right?
I mean, how else are we going to power our voodoo dolls and make things move?
Exactly. So yes, so there is that thing to get that whole thing around there. But interruption and distractions, that's something that I really, I mean, I am doing this show in my bedroom.
Me too.
Right. And, I try to write full time, but most of my time is taken up with people distracting me or sort of trying to take my time away. So I think, even though it's close, I am going to go with Heather on that point. So that would be the first for Heather. Close, very,
Thank
very
you.
close.
I'm
Second,
surprised it's so close.
Yeah.
it is close. It is close because I do agree. I agree with both of them. They're all great points. Second one, comparison to other writers and imposter syndrome, I think, and the hustle culture against research rabbit holes. Too much research leads them to find the story. So yeah, research rabbit holes. I can understand that. One of the more like realistic things. I write fantasy and urban fantasy, but I wrote a crime novel as well. And one of the things that why it took so long was because I set it in a real place in the 1940s,
Yes.
and I had to research everything about it. And most of it, I realized at one point, it didn't matter because there's not a lot of people that were alive in the 1940s that are going to be reading this book. So it's like, what's the point? But it is that quest for authenticity. However, I did enjoy the research, I must say. Comparison to other writers, I think that is an important thing as well. And the hustle culture, I think it's important to be your own writer. And it doesn't really matter what other people are doing. They're releasing 10 books a year, fair play to them. Do your thing and get on with it. So I think I will go with Nikki's point on that one, just because I actually do like research.
Yeah.
You had to work really hard on that one because
Yeah.
to get that one in. Which brings us to the final point.
Can I interrupt for a second? There's
No.
breathing. There's breathing on this line
It's
somewhere.
It's wrong. Let's just say it's wrong.
So I don't think it's me. I don't think it's Heather, and I don't think it's you.
I don't think it's my dogs, but I
So
might not
sorry
be able
to
to hear
freak
them
me
through my
out, though.
headphones.
It might be wrong because sometimes he rings me up and just breathes down the phone at me.
That's what I'm saying. It's giving me creep vibes.
Yeah.
Yay, creepy.
So
Thank
the
you.
third point. The third point is jealousy and drama between authors versus not being an author anymore, which is a bold one. How could it be me when I'm talking? I don't breathe and talk at the same time.
It's like
That's how I talk. So while I decide, I am going to make a decision on who is this week's winner. This was the phrase, Ron. Ron, this was the phrase. Bring up the card, Ron. This week's the winner is. I'm going to make my decision, Ron. Leave the comments. We can come back to the comments, Ron. I know what there it is.
jeez. Okay, I just had
I
a
got
seizure.
whiplash.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. As much as I think it's important to know when you are not enjoying something anymore. I think that is really, really important. I don't want to put your topic into the green room, Heather, because it's making you so happy. So I don't want to put your happiness and banish it away forever.
Aw, come
because,
on.
No,
You
I
never
don't
know
want
when
to.
the next time is going to be.
I don't
I
want to
don't get
banish
happy very
someone's happiness. I don't want to banish your happiness because I think it's an important thing. I think the thing is, I think a lot of people do. Sometimes people get stuck in a rut and they get very unhappy and they kind of just work because it's the thing that they think they're supposed to be doing. They don't take a break or whatever. And I think it's important to pump the brakes every so often. But it seems like you're happy that you've decided to do this.
We'll find out because, I'm totally flying by the seat of my pants on this one because you never know how it's going to turn out.
And you never know if you'll come back to it in time either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I could be eating my own words and, spend the next 6 months writing the newest best novel because, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore.
That's it. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Off.
So with the jealousy between authors, I think that is one of the most toxic things that goes on. And it's when some drama does explode on social media, it's fun to watch for a little while. Don't get me wrong. But also it's terrible.
See, I'm learning things about you.
Yeah, it's nice just to kind of just like peer in and go, my God, I'm glad I'm not involved in this, and then go off for a little while. But it's very, very toxic, and it's not good for optics of indie and self-published authors when this kind of thing happens. And I think it's important to support everyone. And as you said, Nikki, there are loads of readers. There are people that I'm in reading groups of where a book. I was in a reading group where a 1,600-page book was released 3 days ago, and loads of people have read it already. It's like, well, they can read a 1,600-page book in a few days, and they can find room to read something else. So I think that Nikki is going to be winning this, and Nikki is this week's winner. Congratulations, Nikki. Congratulations. You unfortunately win an interview with me.
You have totally secured my loser at everything status. Thank you so much.
Well, you say you're a loser, Heather, but I like to prefer the person that didn't win. And also, you will be back in an hour and 15 minutes to talk to Ron La for half an hour.
Yeah.
How is that a loser's prize?
It depends.
That's
I
the
mean,
right
I
answer.
haven't met Ron yet, so let me just, I'll tell you later.
Yes. He likes gardening. He likes gardening a lot.
He's really
Oh,
mean.
God.
You're in for
He
it.
is quite mean.
Oh God,
So-
we're gonna get along great.
Let's just have a quick look at the comments, and then we will be back in 10 minutes to interview me and Nikki with Basking in the Green Room. So yeah, let's have a look at these comments before we go. Well, this was from ages ago. Horror officer nicer. She loves the horror community. Nikki is a hippie. This is true.
Yeah.
When to pivot. Yeah.
Yes.
So I couldn't put when to pivot into the agreement because that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Nikki 2-1, but yeah, I agree. It was very, very, very good. I'm very
I
compelling.
didn't make it fair because A, I winged it, and B,
I look on another day. If you were up against Ron, you would have won. I'm just saying.
Oh, thank you.
Ron doesn't ever come up with anything that was good.
Always throwing Ron under the bus.
Right. Woohoo, Nikki. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Very good. Okay, so yeah, there's a couple of things that you win. It's not just the interview. You also get some things coming up in the Go Indie Now Network's other shows that are coming up soon. So keep an eye on those. And in terms of keeping an eye on something, we will be back in 10 minutes at 1:15 in Basking in the Green Room. I will be talking to NIKKI DEKEUSTER for an hour. Then Ron will be talking to Heather Lang for half an hour. So come back, see what we're talking about. Ask us any questions that you've got. And remember, it's always time to go indie now.
Thank you so much.